Okay, this is Mike Benoit and another Tyranny Busters episode. And this one will be about Rand Paul using a tyranny upon the mind of man and promoting tax slavery. Tyranny Busters. I got in trouble for not saying Jefferson's quote exactly. So I'm going to have to read it this time. And yeah, it's at the beginning of every video, but you know, some folks don't watch every video, so they're not tired of hearing it. They only watch one video. Here's what Jefferson said. I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. So what's a tyranny over the mind of man? Tyranny. What's it mean by tyranny? Well, I've done a little research. I'll boil it down. You can do the research too. But the tyranny that Jefferson refers to comes from the ancient word, Greek word. And it meant taking control where you had no right to take control. A tyranny could actually be benevolent back in those days. So taking control of somebody's mind, you could have good intentions by taking control of their mind. And how do you take control of somebody's mind, you might say? Well, lie to them. And then they do a certain thing because of the lie. That's the tyranny upon the mind of man. Now, you might lie to them and they end up choosing the right job, choosing the right spouse. Or you might lie to them and it all goes wrong. But those are all tyrannies upon their mind. And so we're going to find Mr. Rand Paul's latest tyranny here, hopefully, if I can pull it up. And we'll see. I'm not lucky. Oh, yeah, here it is. Just 1 second. And here it is. I stand with Rand. Okay. I like this. Rand. He's got a fist like this. Stand with Rand. Drive stake through the heart of the IRS. Oh, wow, we're going to drive a stake through the heart of the IRS. I stand with Rand in his fight to defeat the Washington machine and drive a stake through the heart of IRS by, now I don't know who wrote this. This came from his campaign, though. So it doesn't say he wrote this, but he's got the plan anyway. Grand scheme. He's going to fix Washington for us. And how is he any different than any other politician who's come down the pike that said they're going to fix the schools, they're going to fix the tax system, they're going to fix the unemployment, they're going to fix this and fix that. And I'm so tired of them going to fix things, but they just stop fixing things for a while so we can fix things. So he's going to end the workers' tax. This plan will end the FICA payroll tax. That's Rand Paul's plan, and the Congress is going to pass it. You betcha, babe. And what's so good about it? It's like going to end this FICA tax, right? Now, of course, in this little blurb here, it doesn't say if he's going to end the part that the companies are forced to pay. He says it's the largest tax for many working Americans. Notice for many working. So what could many, what's many? I don't know. What's many? Doesn't say most working Americans. He says it goes to zero. Okay. Eliminating the headaches and complications in filing federal taxes by allowing every taxpayer to file a simple one-page return with a low and fair tax rate of 14.5. Now, I use this term, I'm Rand Paul, I use this term fair. So now that's what I want you to, you're a Rand Paul supporter, so you're just going to associate that this is a fair plan because I'm a Rand Paul supporter. I like Rand Paul. Tyranny upon the mind. This is a fair plan. Fair tax rate of 14.5. Why is 14.5 fair? Rand Paul says it's fair. And allowing every taxpayer, we're going to allow every taxpayer Well, what's a taxpayer anyway? Taxpayer, I wrote a book called Tyranny Busters, The Sham and Shame of the Federal Income Tax. And then, of course, it's out there. You can look it up in the Internal Revenue Code. What's a taxpayer? It's somebody who has been made subject to or liable for an income tax. That's what a taxpayer is. Now, but you all think you're taxpayers without ever seeing the section of the code that makes you subject to or liable for a tax. Let's just call everybody a taxpayer. They get it in their mind that they're a taxpayer. That's not someone who pays a gasoline tax or a sales tax. It's a one-word federal term used to denote the person who pays federal income tax, taxpayer. Now that what makes you a taxpayer. Where's the code section? That's another story. But anyway, tyranny upon the mind of man. Call everybody a taxpayer. Thus they think they're subject to or liable for this tax. And Rand Paul is going to be so kind to you all. You all servants and slaves and serfs and indentured servants. I wanted to do a video on the National Dependence Day or Indentured Servant Day, because you go back to 1776, the holiday that we were celebrating just a few days ago, and you didn't find any Americans that were either indentured to the government or dependent on it. But now everybody's either indentured to it or dependent on it, and somehow the prosperity that technology brought us, they all think it's due to that dependency and that indentured servitude. So this income tax, slavery, if anybody owns your labor, they own you. That's your property. Now you're going to say, oh, I've got to tax for all the good government services. No, that's another story. But there's a million taxes. Even in the Internal Revenue Code, there's over 100 of them, besides the income tax. So, but no, the income tax is a slave tax. Of course, it started way back when they just imposed this tax on the rich. Yep, the rich wasn't affecting you, so you didn't care. Well, the rich passed it on to you and the cost of the products that they made. So anyway, 4.5, aren't you thrilled? It's going to save families over $2 trillion in the first 10 years. That's $200 billion a year, folks. And what's the federal deficit? What is it? 1 trillion? Oh, they're telling you something else. But they're spending $1 trillion more than they're taking in. And Rand Paul's going to save $200 billion. That's marvelous. Things are going to be wonderful in 10 years with Rand Paul. So eliminating payroll taxes, which incentivize employers to hire more workers and raises after tax income by 15% over 10 years. And this is going to raise, oh man, after tax income by 15% over 10 years. Wow, Rand Paul, my hero. Ending corporate welfare and special tax rates. Eliminating the army of lobbyists and tax lawyers gaming the system. System's okay, it's just those that are gaming it. That means no more mom and pop businesses paying 40% of their income in taxes, while big corporations armed with armies of slick lawyers pay zero. Now, the words coming from Ron Paul would be different if somebody's saying, look at all these corporations paying zero income taxes, or all these rich fat cats paying zero income taxes, or 50% of the people not paying any income tax. Ron Paul would say, well, that's a good start. When do we get to 100%? But Rand Paul, no. He's going to punish the big corporations for getting away with not paying. But of course, see, that's what this nature of this beast is anyways. When you tax the rich, they pass it on down to us. So the tax system, sure, it's a problem because it's slavery. Government revenue coming from other taxes would be adequate enough if it wasn't for the socialist redistribution and the militarism all over the planet. So he's going to be, this is our hero, Rand Paul, providing a real economic stimulus to our economy by exploding the GDP almost 10% over the first 10 years. Wow, Rand Paul's our savior. Well, I hate to tell you this, folks. This is government. This is unbelievable. And of course, he's got all kinds of other saving things for us, like Social Security, change the retirement age, rata. Rand Paul, the better controller. Someone said, well, Ron Paul's going to vote for him. Well, I guess I would vote for him too if he was my son, and the other choices were what they were. But please don't get excited about championing this guy, because he's no champion of liberty. He's the champion of Rand Paul, who thinks he's a better controller than the other guys. Of course, all these other guys, they think they're the better controller. And, you know, like, we've got to have a businessman run the government. That's what we need. A businessman run the government. So what's a businessman going to do? What's he want to do? Maximize his profits, right? And he's got a customer that's got to buy the product no matter what, and it's got to pay the price no matter what. You guys want a businessman? Not me. I want a champion of liberty. I want someone who realizes that this government is 180% or 360 degrees or whatever you want to say out of whack, and that it's not protecting our rights, but it's violating our rights. And how do we look at that and how we understand that? Get a copy of the book, The Law by Frederick Bastiat. What we have is a government that thinks it can prevent stuff. It thinks it can be a patron, and it's not supposed to be those things at all. It's supposed to be our tool to deal with those folks who violate other people, or countries who want to violate us and then attack us and take our life and our liberty and our property. Deal with those things. It's not even supposed to prevent that. It's just supposed to squash it when it happens, if it does happen. And it's supposed to restore justice when injustice comes in. It isn't supposed to create the injustice. All of this organization of government over private industry is creating a system of injustice. Read the book by Frederick Bastiat, The Law. I'm going to try to get to the right control thing here to cut this off, but you've been listening to and watching Tyranny Busters, Mike Benoit. Hopefully we busted some tyranny that's been placed on the mind of man. Thank you, and see you next time around.